Azerbaijan and Armenia have signed a peace deal at the White House aimed at ending decades of hostilities.
For over 3 decades, Armenia and Azerbaijan have been locked in a bitter, bloody, and seemingly endless conflict. Generations have grown up knowing nothing but mistrust, skirmishes, and the looming shadow of war. But last week, something happened that no one thought possible. At the White House...
But last week, the leaders of the 2 South Caucasus countries met alongside US President Donald Trump at the White House.
Under the watchful eye of former US President Donald Trump, the leaders of these 2 South Caucasus nations signed a historic agreement, a deal that could finally end the fighting. A deal so unexpected, so geopolitically bold, that it's already sending shockwaves from Moscow to Tehran. And it comes with something no one saw coming, a brand new trade route called the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, or simply TRIP. But before you start thinking this is the fairy tale ending, think again. This deal could reshape the map, redraw alliances, and maybe, just maybe, plant the seeds of the next great conflict in the region. Today, we'll break it all down. How this peace deal came together, what's hidden inside it, why Russia and Iran are furious, and the real obstacles that still stand in the way of peace. Make sure you stay until the end, because the last part might just change how you see this whole agreement. To understand the weight of this moment, we need to rewind. Armenia and Azerbaijan's hostility didn't start yesterday. It began in the chaotic collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s. Back then, ethnic Armenian separatists in the Nagorno-Karabakh region, officially part of Azerbaijan, declared independence with full backing from Armenia. This sparked a brutal war. By the time the guns fell silent in 1994, Armenia and its allies controlled Nagorno-Karabakh and several surrounding Azerbaijani territories. It wasn't just a military win for Armenia, it was a humiliation for Azerbaijan. For decades, the conflict simmered, and then, in 2020, it boiled over. Azerbaijan, now armed with advanced drones and weaponry from Turkey and Israel, launched a lightning offensive. In just 6 weeks, they recaptured most of the territories they had lost decades earlier. But the biggest shock came in 2023. In a single day, Azerbaijan seized the entire breakaway Nagorno-Karabakh region. Almost the entire ethnic Armenian population fled. And here's the twist. Russia, Armenia's longtime security guarantor, did nothing. Why? Because Russia was distracted, bogged down in its war in Ukraine. And relations with Armenia had soured. After that 2023 takeover, the urgency for a peace deal skyrocketed. For the first time, both nations seemed willing to talk seriously. By early 2024, negotiations were underway, with the United States, first under Biden, then Trump, stepping in as the lead mediator. By March 2025, there was a breakthrough. Both sides agreed on most of the language for a future peace deal. But there was one massive sticking point: the Zangezur Corridor. If you don't know, the Zangezur Corridor is a proposed transport route cutting through the southern tip of Armenia. It would connect mainland Azerbaijan to its exclave Nakhchivan, a small region separated from the rest of the country by Armenian territory. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev wanted it badly. Armenia's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan was dead set against it, calling it a violation of Armenia's territorial integrity. For months, it was a diplomatic brick wall. That is, until last Friday. At the White House, with cameras flashing and flags waving, Pashinyan and Aliyev announced a compromise and gave it a flashy new name: the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, or TRIP. Here's the twist. Armenia agreed to lease the land for 99 years, not to Azerbaijan, but to the United States. A private U.S. company will build and operate the route, which will include road and rail lines, oil and gas pipelines, fiber optic internet cables. The kicker? The land will still be under Armenia's legal jurisdiction. No loss of sovereignty, no foreign control of Armenian territory. On paper, it's a win-win. Azerbaijan gets its connection, Armenia keeps its territorial integrity, and the U.S. plants a major economic and strategic footprint in a region once dominated by Russia. But here's where things get messy. This isn't just a road, it's a power play. For decades, the South Caucasus was considered Russia's backyard. Now, with TRIP, Washington is staking a claim right in the middle of it. For Russia, this is a nightmare scenario. It's losing influence in Armenia, a country it once counted as a loyal ally. Its peacekeepers in Nagorno-Karabakh have been sidelined. And now a US-backed corridor is cutting through a critical part of the region. Iran isn't happy either. The new route could shift trade patterns and weaken Tehran's influence over regional transport networks. Before you pop the champagne, here's the reality check. This is not a final peace treaty. It's a joint declaration, a framework for future cooperation. Border demarcation issues remain unresolved. The return of prisoners of war is still being negotiated. And deep distrust between the two nations will take more than one handshake in Washington to erase. Some in Armenia worry that Azerbaijan might still push for more territory in the future. Some in Azerbaijan believe Armenia could block or sabotage the project if relations sour again. Construction on TRIP is expected to begin within a year. If it's completed, it could transform the South Caucasus into a major trade hub, connecting Europe and Asia more directly. Supporters call it a game changer. Skeptics say it's a ticking time bomb. Either way, one thing is clear. The Trump route isn't just about peace, it's about power, influence, and control over one of the world's most strategic crossroads. So, is this the dawn of a new era for Armenia and Azerbaijan, or just the calm before the next storm? Only time will tell. Even with a signed framework, the ink isn't dry yet, and there are still several political and legal knots to untangle before a final peace treaty becomes reality. But let's be honest, even now, there are already some very clear winners. 4, to be exact: Azerbaijan, Turkey, the United States, and Armenia. For Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev, TRIP is nothing short of a dream realized. The new route will finally connect Azerbaijan's main territory with its long-separated exclave, Nakhchivan. This isn't just about a map line. It's about moving people, goods, and military assets with ease, without having to go through foreign checkpoints. And there's more. Nakhchivan shares a short but strategic border with Turkey. That means TRIP effectively gives Azerbaijan a direct land connection to its closest ally. Economically, this is a game changer. Azerbaijan's oil and gas exports, already critical to Europe, can now reach markets via an alternative to the Georgia route in the north. And strategically, it strengthens Azerbaijan's role in the Middle Corridor, a trade route linking Europe with Central Asia and China without passing through Russia. Why does that matter? Because since the invasion of Ukraine, the Middle Corridor's value has skyrocketed. It's become the preferred east-west route for nations looking to bypass Russia entirely. Naturally, what's good for Azerbaijan here is also good for Turkey. By reinforcing the Middle Corridor, TRIP boosts Turkey's position as a bridge between East and West, economically and politically. A more connected South Caucasus means Turkish goods, energy, and influence can flow deeper into Central Asia and beyond. But there's another layer. A lasting peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan could open the door for Armenia-Turkey normalization, reopening borders closed for over 3 decades. For Armenia, the benefits are as much about survival as prosperity. By integrating itself into the Middle Corridor, Armenia hopes to unlock new economic opportunities, break free from isolation, and reopen its long-shut borders. It also gains something it's been quietly seeking for years: a security counterbalance to Russia. With U.S. involvement in TRIP, Armenia is betting that Washington's presence will act as a shield, or at least a deterrent, against future aggression in a very dangerous neighborhood. And then there's the United States. Geopolitically, it's hard to overstate what this means for Washington. TRIP gives America a physical, economic, and diplomatic footprint in a region that, until now, has been dominated by Russia and heavily influenced by Iran. It's part commercial venture, part peace mission, and part strategic chess move. And let's not forget the branding. The Trump route name cements the deal as a signature achievement for Donald Trump himself, feeding into his narrative as a master negotiator and deal-maker. He's already touting it as proof he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. From a foreign policy perspective, It strengthens America's hand in future talks with Moscow and Tehran, whether over Ukraine, sanctions, or nuclear issues. But this kind of long-term commitment also carries a risk. If tensions flare up again, U.S. troops, contractors, or companies could be caught in the middle. Where there are winners, there are also losers. For Russia, TRIP is a public humiliation. Just 5 years ago, Moscow was the main mediator in this conflict, even slated to oversee the Zangezur corridor project. Now, both Armenia and Azerbaijan have cut Russia out entirely and invited the U.S. in. For Iran, the frustration is even sharper. TRIP means an American presence right along the Armenia-Iran border, a critical gateway that Tehran has used to reach Georgia, Russia, and the Black Sea. Iranian leaders have already threatened to block the project, calling it a graveyard for Trump's mercenaries. Strong words, but whether they'll take action is another story. And that brings us to the future. Will the Trump administration have the patience and political will to see this through, especially if costs rise or construction hits delays? If the U.S. presidency changes hands, will the next administration keep supporting it? And most importantly, will TRIP actually lead to a lasting Armenia-Azerbaijan peace? Even now, some major disputes remain. Azerbaijan wants Armenia to remove all references to Nagorno-Karabakh from its constitution, a move that would require a public referendum. But Armenia's Prime Minister Pashinyan is already deeply unpopular at home for the concessions he's made. For him, pushing a constitutional change could be political suicide. At the end of the day, TRIP is more than just a road. It's a symbol of shifting power in the South Caucasus, and a bet that trade can succeed where decades of diplomacy have failed. But will it work? Or will this bold, flashy project become just another stalled promise in a region littered with them? The answers will come, not in days or weeks, but in the years ahead. Until then, the world will be watching and waiting.